Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in to a regular season edition of the AP Breakdown. Finally, we are here at the beginning of the Chiefs season, their quest for a three-peat. I am Ron Kopp Jr., the lead analyst at arrowheadpride.com. With you, as always, on the Arrowhead Pride YouTube page with Caleb James at CJ Scoobs on Twitter. Great film analyst for the site, Caleb. Oh, man, we're here. We're finally here. Finally, we don't need to break down preseason film. Even this week, we got to look back at last year's film. Next week, we'll be actually looking at regular season tape of these Chiefs as they try to make history, man. I don't know. I'm fired up, Caleb. How you feeling going into the season?
Man, I'm just excited that we have the regular season back and everything's ready to go. You know, camp's always fun. The preseason's fun. It's fun figuring out who those last few guys are going to be to make the roster. But now it's like for real. It's back. You know, you're going to see all the stars. We got a real star-studded matchup at Arrowhead here in just a couple days. You have the defending champions versus probably a team that they'll be contenders till the end. Again, just like they were last year in the Ravens. But all in all, I mean, I'm fired up. I think we're both going to be there on Thursday. So should be a good time. Do a little banner celebration. Just remember the last few things from last season and get ready for this year.
Man, I was telling you before the show, but I'm so glad we got a juicier matchup this for week one. You know, I always go to the season opener just as a season ticket holder. And, man, last year, Lions, great team, fun team. You know, no one really knew how good they were going to be exactly then. And maybe it was Chris Jones and Travis Kelce not being in the game either. But it's just like, man, there wasn't that juice there. But you know you're going to feel it coming into this game, man. The Ravens are going to want revenge after us coming into their place in January, taking it from them, taking the Lamar Hunt trophy back home. Man, I'm fired up. It's going to be a fun game. And, yeah, let's talk about it, Caleb. Let's talk about some of the things that could go down on the field. I mean, both of us are going to be looking at things the Chiefs offense can do against the Ravens defense, or maybe how even the Ravens defense may attack the Chiefs offense. Not really looking at the defense today. We're definitely going to be more balanced as the season goes, everybody. But that's why let's just talk about the defense. I mean, I think the Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry combo on the ground, you know, if they get creative with how they do that, it could be, obviously unique and dangerous. You know, Zay Flowers is a nice receiver. I don't know. You're looking at the, defensive line against the Ravens offensive line. Anything you see there? What are you looking at when we're talking about the Chiefs defense?
So the Ravens defensive line, they've got guys that have been on their team, but not necessarily started a bunch of games. They are going to have a guy making his NFL regular season debut, Andrew Voorhees. They drafted him last year. He had torn his ACL late at UCL or late at USC. He didn't play last year for them. But you could identify that as maybe a matchup where you like Chris Jones at, especially on third down situations versus the rookie. And on the other side, their right tackle, Patrick McCarry, he's a journeyman type guy. You know, he's started half of the career games he's played in. So you see that and you think maybe we could have an advantage with Jones out there also. George Karlaftis, I think this could be a big game. There were reports in camp where Lamar Jackson was a little bit frustrated with the way their offensive line performed at times, was kind of the report out of Baltimore. They still have some good players like Tyler Linderbaum and Ronnie Stanley on the left side there. But really, especially, this is one of the first times they're going to go an extended period of live reps. That is the same for all the linemen across the board. You know, you've seen a few drives here or there in the preseason from both sides, but now it's going to be 60 minutes of full go. So you'll start to see maybe a little bit of that conditioning factor towards the end also.
Yeah, you mentioned McCarry at the right tackle spot. You know, definitely someone that they've had, on the team, right? But is kind of, and he's filled in nice at right tackle for them before. But I mean, on third downs, if they do get in those third and longs, I mean, Chris Jones obviously loves to line up over that right tackle. But I mean, it could even be the rookie, couldn't it? Roger Rosengarten. I mean, I don't know exactly how it. I mean, maybe it is just going to be all the time McCarry full time. But like if it's Rosengarten, that's even worse for Baltimore. Maybe that's why they won't do that right away, right? He was a second round pick, I believe, maybe a third round pick, no second round pick. And someone that played right tackle at Washington. But was kind of the blindside protector for Michael Penix because he was a lefty. So he definitely, had the pass blocking chops, but I don't know if he's ready to come right out the gates against Chris Jones or George Karlaftis. or even a Mike Dana. Would be very interested to see that. But yeah, I mean, you look in the secondary, you have. I think you're going to have Zay Flowers, Trey McDuffie just match up. I think you're going to see the Chiefs go right away to that. If he's on the outside, have McDuffie play the outside. The only problem with that though is how do you, who is, do you move someone into slot, like a Connor and trust him more in coverage? I guess you're going to have to, but I don't know any matchups in the secondary or I guess running. I mean, I don't know. Do you feel any way about Derrick Henry there? Like, should we be, should the linebackers need to be ready to roll, or is that more on the defensive front?
Well, it's weird, man. I guess the closest Derrick Henry comparison they've had as a running back in that offense is probably Gus Edwards.
Right.
You have all these other backs. They're more shifty guys or guys that are going to rely on their speed a little bit more or their cutback ability. That's not really who Derrick Henry is.
They won't have Keaton Mitchell to have this game.
Yeah,
he'll be on the PUP, so that's a good.
That's not really who Derrick Henry is. It's never who he's been. So I'd say maybe around the red zone goal line area, that's where you're gonna have to watch Henry the most. But it's also early in the season, so I don't know how much they're going to be wanting to tap him early. I would just be on the lookout for a lot of zone read stuff, like a lot of stuff where Lamar can get out in space, a little misdirection, roll into the flats. Big week for Drew Tranquill, big week for Bolton, big week for the linebackers. Justin Reed also. Reed played tremendous in the AFC title game against Lamar, and they're both, those guys are going to need to bring it again.
So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, Willie Gay's no longer here. He didn't play in the AFC Championship, I believe. So, like, no harm, no foul there, right? Like, they had Leo Chenal kind of doing some of that stuff maybe, but they did rely on Drew a lot that game, and obviously he had a huge game too. I think all the linebackers played pretty well that game. But yeah, Justin Reed's obviously a key piece. I think one thing before we move on too is Jaden Hooks. Obviously everyone's excited about him, but I think we have to remember that he is the fourth safety on the depth chart. Steve Spagnuolo, kind of made it clear this week in his press conference. He was like, we've seen, we want to work him in, but just to kind of have him ready if something happens later in the season or, just as time goes on, like if he proves himself. But I don't think, he's going to be an active part of like the full-time defensive rotation right away. So just, maybe a little buzzkill. I think a lot of people are excited about him, but like, guys, let's remember Chamari Connor. Let's remember Brian Cook. Hey, we're excited. We got a great safety group. Hicks can, he's a great depth piece. But yeah, no, I think the linebackers and safeties have a huge role in this game, obviously. But again, I do think there's a point to be made that up front, defensive tackles against Derrick Henry, like if they don't get pushed up front, if they get kind of pushed back, and Tyler Linderbaum, the right guard is Daniel Falele, apparently, the Minnesota right tackle, that ginormous dude. Like, if they are getting pushed up front, these linebackers are going to have a tougher time. So, I mean, it really is a huge game for, Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell. Obviously, Chris Jones needs to be ready to get down and dirty. I mean, is it more on the defensive linemen or the linebackers, you think, for a game plan like this when you're going against kind of a big offensive line?
I think it's a little bit of both because Lamar back there makes it to where the linebackers have to play disciplined. They have to play well, but you really want the defensive line to play stout because if the linebackers start having to overcommit and go in, that's when Lamar is going to start to hurt you with his legs. Also there.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, like the linebackers can't overcommit, like, and that definitely can happen with a running game, especially Derrick Henry. That's where the Ravens offense, if they get rolling and you get, defenses on their heels a little bit, they can definitely have success. But all right, we'll definitely see what happens, right? I do think the Chiefs defense has the advantage, just because, they shut them down the first time. They've always had success, I feel like, at least in the last few games against, well, I shouldn't even say that, honestly. Lamar's gotten the Chiefs defense in other games, but this past year, and they don't have the weapons, I think, on the outside to necessarily take advantage of L'Jarius Sneed being gone. But let's talk about the Chiefs offense, because I do think that's very interesting. Ravens defense has a new defensive coordinator this year. Michael McDonald, their defensive coordinator last year, obviously put together great schemes. They were one of the best defenses in the NFL, like usual. He is the Seattle head coach. Forgive me, I think it's Zach Orr. I definitely should have made sure I knew that name before we started the podcast. But new defensive coordinator who's on the staff last year. Do you know it?
It's Orr.
Oh, look at me.
He's been.
I don't know if it's Zach, but
he's been on their. So he played for them for 2 seasons, and then he had to medically retire. And he's been in the Ravens organization his entire professional career. So you assume he kind of knows their system a little bit and kind of knows what Harbaugh wants.
Oh yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like that's where you can almost kind of expect the Ravens defense maybe to like, just because they lost their defense coordinator doesn't mean you'll see major changes. They still have the very similar personnel. They did lose Patrick Queen, their stud linebacker next to Roquan Smith. Roquan is still there. Besides that though, their cornerbacks just, they upgraded obviously. Marlon Humphrey might be healthy this year. He was not healthy last year. Nate Wiggins, first round rookie, I was not super high on him, but obviously they're going to play him. And he is fast as crap, so that's a good counter for Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, although Hollywood Brown obviously will not play this game. He was already ruled out by the team this week. But let's get to it, because that is still going to be a theme of this game, is that vertical passing game. The Chiefs beating man coverage. The Ravens are going to be in a lot of one safety looks, because what they're going to do a lot, and we'll show more of that in other plays, but it actually shows it here pretty well too. Kyle Hamilton, that strong safety, strong safety, all pro last year. He is going to a lot of times come down and be over Kelsey, whether he's the only guy covering Kelsey in man or he is helping someone else in man. He is, as long as they do what they did last year, and it didn't really work last year, right? 11 catches on 11 targets. They're still going to want to try to use Kyle Hamilton as that Kelsey stopper. Obviously here, Kelsey kind of trips, and so it's a no play. But here, really the point is that you're going to get a lot of one safety looks. And last year, the Chiefs weren't able to take advantage. And this is one simply just because Mahomes doesn't like MBS, or doesn't, trust MBS, right? Because obviously this year, I think you're seeing him take this target. If this is Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy streaking away, the safety is almost on the opposite hash, not even really in a good position to turn right away yet. He's just now turning once, the break's already happening here, and he's already, creating separation vertically. And so you got to have the check down. And that's the thing with the Ravens, is they are this game, and I should have had a compilation of them, because there's a ton of them. They are a very strong open tackling team, or open field tackling team. You're not going to necessarily, be able to, or you shouldn't expect to be able to break tackles in the open field. Like that shouldn't be your offense. Like you need to be able to create separation with the scheme, not rely on the checkdowns, not rely on Pacheco or whoever it is to like break someone off and make a big play off of that. This is obviously, the big play, the big vertical play from last game where he does trust MBS. And gives him the money ball to win the game. But again, what you're going to get is a one high safety look, because Hamilton is manned up. He's pressing Kelsey right here, right? He's pressing Kelsey over the top. What does Kelsey do? Block Jadeveon Clowney on a pass rush. He's helped chip in. Kyle Hamilton is completely wasted. You also have the one high safety having attention on Rashee Rice over the middle, right? Because the Rashee Rice was killing everybody last year in the playoffs. Everyone knew they needed to have eyes on him. The Chiefs still have that. Like the Chiefs still have all this attention on Kelsey and Rice that the Ravens have to pay attention to with their linebackers and safeties. But now they should have better talent on the outside to take advantage of that. Again, Brown is not in the game. I really wish he was. I think it would be a really fun game if he were. And it's going to be a fun game either way. But Xavier Worthy has the chance to. This is a touchdown if it's Xavier Worthy. It just is. Like MBS, Mahomes puts this into a place where he knows MBS like isn't going to drop it right. Like, oh, it's got to be picture perfect. If that's Xavier Worthy, Mahomes puts that out there, doesn't even think about it, the touchdown. And so, again, you're going to get one high safety looks. This time, Hamilton's actually just manned up over here in a trips look, but Kelsey still has the attention over here. He's still manned up. They're actually blitzing, so it's just cover one, right? But what they did here is they get Watson, the nice release, and you're going to see them do this with Xavier Worthy a lot, right? They just didn't have the guys to do it last year. Watson was their fast guy. Imagine them being able to do this with Worthy, where they're just getting him free releases, right? He's the outside receiver in a trip set. He's motioning all the way inside. That corner, look, that communication right here. You're going to see them try to communicate. That corner saying, hey, look, someone else has got to pick him up. Shoot, no one else does. 10's like, yo, you got to pick him up. And so 28 all of a sudden like, shoot, I got to get all the way over. If that's Xavier Worthy, that could even be a touchdown potentially if the attention on Kelsey is more so. So I think you're going to see a lot of opportunities for the Chiefs to beat man coverage against the Ravens. And a lot of that has to do with the attention on Kelsey. But there's other ways to even get Kelsey open himself. Actually on that same theme, talking about, the attention off Kelsey, like the Chiefs are going to be running. I think they're going to run the ball this game. Actually, Caleb, let's get your input here. Because I think it's going to be a Pacheco game. I think if you're taking bets, like I think a Pacheco player prop is a nice one. Like I think the Chiefs are going to try to run. I think the Chiefs are going to try to, the Ravens may, try to overcompensate for the attention on Kelsey, Rice, and Xavier Worthy. they do in their base sets a lot. They will play light against the Chiefs. The Chiefs just didn't. They ran well against it last year, but they didn't necessarily beat it up. I think they have a chance to this year right away. What do you think about the run game in this matchup?
I think Baltimore does have a stout run defense. I think that what hurt the Chiefs last year in the AFC Championship game was there was no Joe Tooney. It was
Yes,
Allegretti and
should have mentioned that for sure.
Allegretti and Donovan Smith were kind of manning that left side, and later as the game progressed on, that kind of became a weak link for the Chiefs. I'll touch on that here in a minute because I'm pretty much just looking at one of the Ravens' better players on their team. But I mean, they still have Roquan Smith. They still have good linebacker play. So I can see it being 50-50. I think it's going to be for the Chiefs. It's going to be about picking your spots and not just getting stuck in the trap of just running zone, 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 or zone, power, zone. Mix it up a little bit. Go to the outside. You got an athletic tackle now in Kingsley. And with the way that the Ravens play a lot of these odd fronts, you can have some favorable matchups to the outside if you need to.
Yeah, and so like last year in this game, they went a lot of 12 personnel, maybe because they didn't like how their 11 personnel match or sets would be because of their lack of receiver talent, because they did need to run the ball, especially because they had that lead. They wanted to run the ball, obviously, and kind of, chew clock. So they were in a lot of 12 personnel sets. And when you're in 12 personnel and the Ravens are paying this much attention to Kelce, you're going to see Patrick Queen here kind of bump him right off the line and then actually turn and go with him, even though Kelce is manned up by somebody else. You're going to see, they actually put Kyle Hamilton on Noah Gray here, doubling Kelce with two other players. That's kind of the Bill Belichick way, right? Double someone with two lesser guys and then use your best guy on just an individual player, obviously in a lesser extent here. But all that to say is I think the Chiefs may be able to take advantage of this attention on Kelce a little more this year. This is going to be out of an 11 personnel set. I mean, obviously this play just gets blown up, but you're going to see, the outside linebacker, the Chiefs have to be careful of this. The outside linebacker, Kyle Van Noy, he drops under Kelce, like on a third down at the sticks. Like Mahomes, just not, maybe just isn't paying attention necessarily because the rush is in his face, tries to fit this in, which this is what he does here. Obviously, he anticipates Kelce going outside more than inside. But again, like Van Noy dropping there, like the Chiefs have to be careful. They're going to have other options, beat man coverage in these situations. And again, this is more, one high again, obviously, and they're playing a little more off man. So you have the opportunity for, if you have speed on the field, Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, Xavier Worthy, all with Kelce. Someone has to beat that man coverage. Someone has to get open because they are going to give a lot of attention to Kelce, I believe. And I think it is a big game for Rice too. Here's another, example on a third down. Van Noy drops, goes all the way with Kelce, all the way up the seam, right? And then by the time he drops off, Roquan is picking him up, and then Kyle Hamilton's over the top. That's pretty much a triple team. That's pretty much, it's not, because obviously one of these guys should be in the flat taking on Gray, and that's why the play here is to Gray. It's easy peasy. But obviously the pass isn't there and it's an incomplete pass. But again, this is just an example of players besides Kelce have to be able to take advantage of the attention on him and make plays. This is not, a play made. And again, I think I'm glad you pointed out Tooney, because I just glossed over that. But not having Joe Tooney was a big deal in this game. You rewatch this game. Nick Allegretti was getting beat up. Trey Smith, obviously, he's not perfect. He's an aggressive dude, and he can get beat by Matabuke as well. Spoiler alert. So here's one way they can get the ball to Kelce, though, even without, necessarily, or just, getting him the ball. We can't just go the whole game with him being a decoy, right? You gotta get him the ball too. And I just think these are really nice ways to do it. Justin Watson inside of him. He's going to release inside. He's basically going to block the linebacker, Roquan Smith, dropping. He's going to be this kind of hook zone defender here, and a look, kind of a cover, just kind of a zone look. And you're going to see him kind of block Roquan off gets a little physical. And so Roquan can't get over there. And it's just a nice little pocket for Mahomes to throw to Kelce in. Obviously the attention on MVS over the top helps a little bit. Kyle Hamilton has to respect the flat to an extent, although you're going to see Kyle Hamilton take chances. You're going to see him, kind of make plays. There's one play I'll show where, the Chiefs are going to, have to be careful necessarily targeting him. But again, here's another great example. This is a third down. Kelce's a very inside receiver. He's going to release all the way outside vertically, right? So he's going to get all the way outside of the other two receivers. That gives Watson an opportunity to bump his guy, who Hamilton, again, is trying to play him in man, doesn't want to get on him. He needs to give him room to attack at the sticks, because it's kind of like a 3rd and 5. This is like right at the sticks here. But Watson just doesn't give him the chance. And look, Kyle Hamilton's gonna complain about this, but if Watson runs through your route like he does, again, just real quick, if he just runs through his route the way Watson does, you barely even see Watson barely even acts like it happened. That's great play. That's why Watson's on this team. That's good fundamentals. Helps get him open right there. But again, Kyle Hamilton is dangerous. We just got to remember that. He makes a play here that Kelsey even thinks it's going to be a touchdown. You're going to see Kelsey here celebrate because, again, there's attention on Kelsey. Hamilton is actually over the top of Kelsey as too high look at first. He's going to have eyes on him. Chiefs are banking on Hamilton turning, which he kind of does because Kelsey's going this way. It's like, oh, shoot, I'm going to have to cut off Kelsey because he's going to have a wide open lane here. He's got the window here. They're banking on that for Rice going over the top. But Hamilton just sees that real easy, catches the post. It's nothing. Like, he just blankets it. There's nowhere to go. Like, and you're going to see, I should have showed it easier. But, yeah, Kelsey, he thought it was a touchdown. He thought it was a touchdown because against normal safeties, that might be. And, again, the other thing I should point out here is with maybe a faster receiver here, that might actually have a better chance too. Rashee Rice is fast. Rashee Rice can get going, but the Chiefs have actual speed with Xavier Worthy if they're going to use something like this against the Ravens on Thursday. So excited about what the Chiefs pass offense may look like. But again, they gotta be fundamentally disciplined with some of that stuff to get it right, to do it well. I wish they had Hollywood Brown, Caleb. I really did. But you think it's going to be fireworks on because I mean the Chiefs did only score 17 points. Like I maybe should point that out. There were some struggles against the Ravens in that second half. Like, do you see the Chiefs being able to open it up against the Ravens?
Man, it's such a good defense, though. I mean, that's why we're going over it. I mean, they're just loaded across the board. Now, I'm not going to count the Chiefs out. I think that having a guy like Xavier Worthy and a healthy offensive line can make all the difference in the world for that kind of thing, especially since it's been apparent the Chiefs in preseason and camp and everything have been looking to throw the ball more down the field, get back to being explosive. And, I'm excited about the running backs the Chiefs have in the stable now, also seeing how that'll all pan out. But I mean, I think we could see some points be put up. We've seen the Chiefs get into shootouts with Baltimore before when they lost in Baltimore, and then the Mahomes versus Jackson 2 at Arrowhead. Those were like some high scoring 28-30 kind of ball games.
No, 100%. No, that's why I was like, I guess Spags really hasn't had that much success in as a Chiefs DC against the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. But I'm excited for the other side of the ball, though. I really think Andy Reid, run game, offensive line against this Ravens front. I don't know, Caleb. What do you think about that? You got takes on the front here?
Yeah, and the Ravens have a certain brand they want to play with. They always have kind of had it. All their great defensive teams, all the great teams they've had, they kind of build their defense from the middle out. They got good safety play, good linebacker play, specifically middle linebacker, and then they have good defensive tackle play. You touched on Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith. I'm going to touch on their other superstar, though, their other guy that makes things go for them, and that is Nnamdi Madubuike. And he was an All-Pro last season. In the playoffs, he actually had 13 pressures through 2 playoff games, and he also had about 10-plus tackles, a few for loss, and a half a sack against the Chiefs and the Houston Texans collectively through those 2 games. So he was a stud last year. He got a big contract this offseason, which he deserved, and he played a really good game. A part of the reason for the Chiefs' struggles in the AFC title game was because he played so well. But here he's in front of Donovan Smith and Allegretti. He's just kind of in the 4-eye here, almost playing a head up. That's what you're going to get a lot of, especially you're going to see a lot of this. And he's not like the tallest guy in the world, but he's stout. He's explosive, giant motor. Motor never stops running. You see Allegretti tries to get on him quickly, but he gets under Allegretti, and it's not terrible. He's obviously bowled Allegretti further back in the pocket than you'd like to have him, but you can live with this. But the thing is, he just keeps playing and keeps that motor going. He is able to get down for a sack when Pat does try to step up and scramble. And this is really where the Ravens parked him at for most of this ball game, was just because you have a reserve guy like Allegretti in there with Donovan Smith and some of the issues that he was having, it kind of made for it to be it's a matchup that made sense for the Ravens to try to exploit. But he's also, he got a few reps in against Trey Smith also, and that's why he's a good player. Like, they didn't have any fear of putting him out there against Trey Smith, and you see they line up with their technically he could be a 3 technique by the way they're aligning their defense, but he's a 4-eye. We see Chris Jones do this a lot. Also, it's what most defensive tackles do. He takes the guard and he wants to widen them out to where it's essentially the same distance an edge rusher would have against a tackle. He's making the guards be more athletic in space, which is why I think we'll have some Joe Tooney help. But Trey just tries to get big and tries to stab him right away and just get on him quick. But he does turn his shoulders, and Madubuike is able to get around him and just dive out of the feet. And, Pat gets the ball off, but it's definitely not the play they really wanted to go after here. But he still is able to get Pat gets the ball off. It's not the play they were trying to go after there. It's just the safe pass, and that's because the rush is barreling down on him.
No, that's one thing about the game, rewatching it last year, just kind of thinking about being in the mindset that, like, they were up 17-7 a lot of that game. So that offensive script may not be the same as it could be in this game.
Yep. And here you'll see him. This time they go with a little stunt out here. They're going with a TE stunt between Clowney and Madubuike. And Madubuike is the penetrator where Clowney is looping. You see he gets Trey's hands up in the air to where Trey can't ever really get a solid shot on him, which is going to make it harder for Jawan to go down. Jawan Taylor doesn't really come with a lot of force, and Trey kind of has to vacates a little early, but as quick and explosive as Madubuike is off the ball, he's able just to squeeze his way right through the B gap here and put the pressure on Mahomes, force him to flush out of the pocket, and you see it really just turns into nothing there, and that's because the rush was back there so quickly. He didn't really have a chance to get this one going too well, and you're going to have to look out for stuff like this because the Chiefs are going to have a rookie left tackle in the game. That's an underrated aspect you're not seeing all around is Baltimore, got a lot of veterans on their defense. They're probably going to be trying to play some games with Sumataya today.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Speaking on that, because Roquan Smith was, talking in the media, everyone kind of clowned him for saying, oh, you got to stop the run to stop Mahomes, make him pass more. Well, what he's saying is they need to stop the run so we're in more pass obvious situations, right? They want to be in those third and longs. They don't want to be in third and shorts. They don't want to miss out on third downs. The Chiefs want to avoid third downs, right? Exactly for what you just said. Kingsley Suamataia is still a rookie, and Odafe Owe is a good pass rusher too. Young and upcoming, I think his 3rd or 4th year in the league.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't say young and upcoming then.
Well, he's getting there, man.
Yeah, it's got to happen at some point.
Here's just another one. He could have had a sack and a half. Mahomes is just built like putty. I don't know how he got out of this without sustaining a major injury, but you see him against
Shout out Bobby Stroop.
Bobby Stroop stretching plan, man. Got him right because there's no way he should have gotten out of this one. Allegretti gets beat back to the inside. You see Madubuike, he's just lined up head up on Donovan Smith in a 4 technique right now. And then he's able to rip back inside after the overset. And you see there's just no way Mahomes should have even gotten away from that. It should have been another half a sack. But it ends in a sack regardless of the play. And you just kind of see the impact that he made throughout this game. And I've got a couple more to show here. And he wasn't just good against the Chiefs. He was also, it wasn't just the pass that he was good. And he's also good against the run also. He's a good run defender. That's where you talk about, like you just mentioned, they talk about the bread and butter. You got to stop the run. Well, here the Chiefs are just going with their classic zone looking. Trey Smith isn't able to get the most movement on him. He kind of actually sets him outside, kind of sets the edge, almost forces the cutback from Pacheco. And Madubuike does a great job of just sitting there, staying square, being real big and strong in there. And now he's able to break away and get Pacheco for a loss on the play. His run defense is honestly okay. So last year was like his first season of his career where he like had the pass rush production. He's always been a solid run defender in there. And
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say his athletic ability and everything is really what sets him apart. He's got the strength to just sit there and take on double teams, but when he can go out here and move like he is on this play and be able to just kind of go lateral down the line, read and react to stuff, that's what makes him special.
I was just gonna say, I mean, his height, his frame, and he's wearing those white gloves. I don't know if he's always done that, but it does look a little Aaron Donald-ish. No, obviously no one's Aaron Donald, but just the way he plays, obviously his high motor and his all down ability, like you said, like he's not just a one way or another.
And he's got a legitimate chance to be to be the second best defensive tackle in football this season. After, I'd like to say Chris Jones will be the first, but this guy will be right there in the conversation. And here he is again, showing off that impressive strength in a playoff game versus the Texans. The other game that they had where he had like 7 pressures and like 6 tackles or something impressive like that. He had a real dominant 2-game stretch there in the postseason for Baltimore. But you see this, he just drives the guard 5 yards in the backfield, almost knocks him down on the play. Like if you don't get underneath this guy's pads, he's going to make you pay a little bit. Which makes me happy that we do have Joe Thuney back, because Joe Thuney, best pass blocking guard in the league, and he plays with good leverage every play. He's athletic enough to root a guy like this out. So it's got to make you feel just a little bit better headed into this one, especially with our rookie left tackle lined up on the edge. But again, this is a pretty good Ravens defense. I know they've got a new defensive coordinator. I'm going to go ahead and say just who the Ravens are, who they've been throughout the last 20 years. They're going to have the same mindset mentality that they've had for a while under Harbaugh, that they've had for a minute now. They play a certain brand of physical football that they try to maintain throughout the years. I don't think that's going to change too much.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why I definitely feel like the coaching change really shouldn't be looked at like, obviously play calling is different, but the mentality, like you just said. But I think that last clip you showed also is just a good example of the Ravens are a multiple front. Like they can definitely, have the odd fronts. They can have the 5-man fronts where they're straight up a 3-4. They have 2 outside linebackers flanking, and then Matabuke's head up, like you said, on a guy like Kingsley. Like Kingsley's strength right now is probably firing out and being a good run blocker. But if they're throwing that out at him, on early downs and they're trying to run the ball, and Matabuke is just kind of maybe eating him up, that could be something the Chiefs need to counter for. Obviously, I think the Chiefs play calling will count for everything they need to. But yeah, no, I'm fired up for this game. I think that was a great preview. I think one thing I forgot to mention is just the overall other additions. So yeah, like they left off, or they got rid of Jadeveon Clowney. He's no longer there. He was their leading sacker last year. He was their best edge rusher. So yeah, it is just Odafe Owe and then Cal Van Noy as their leading guys. But then also I mentioned Patrick Queen not being there. That is a key X factor here for them is Trenton Simpson. That he was a 2nd-round pick or 3rd-round pick, from Clemson last year. A very athletic linebacker, but the Chiefs, they can definitely toy with guys. They can mess with guys' eyes, especially at the linebacker position. That's a very key matchup. That's why I do think the running back position. I think Pacheco has a big game. I could even see P. Ryan having some good plays as well. Do you think Steele gets any look? I don't know. I think he may just be short yardage right now with the P. Ryan signing. But what do you think?
We'll see. That little wheel route, like they used to run with the sausage every once in a while. We'll see if that Andy wants to bust something like that out late. No, I think it's going to be a lot of Pacheco this week. I think they're just dying to get him going. I think there's a real consensus around the building. They want him to be 1,000-yard back to be able, because he's played like 1,000-yard back. He just hasn't quite gotten the opportunities to, because of one thing or another. And I'm still fired up about P. Ryan. I still think that's one of the best additions they could have made for the spot that they were in. So, especially with what Andy Reid can pull out of his running backs.
No, it's a good point about Pacheco. I think Pacheco does have a big volume game too. But yeah, it's like they need to have him be a 3-down back. They want to use him as a feature back. They don't need to have him as a 3-down back, but they want to use him as one. He wants to be one. But that doesn't mean you just run him, in 100% snaps every game. Like you have to, maybe save it for the big games or, save it for down the stretch. So I think this could be a good game, especially because P. Ryan just got in the building. Steele is a rookie. Why not just let Pacheco, he's fresh. Obviously it's week 1. They'll have a long week until week 2. I'm with you. I think Pacheco has a big volume game. I think that's if you're a betting man, that's what I'm gonna be on. Just being honest. That's what I'm gonna be on. So, all right. Good stuff, Caleb. I'm excited for this game. We'll be out there. See you out there at Arrowhead. See everyone out there that'll be there. Can't wait. Oh man, there's nothing like a packed Arrowhead. Gonna be fired up. Oh man, dude, I just can't wait. I'm speechless, Caleb. Anything else to say before we sign off?
Nope. Football is back. You got Thursday. I hope, Friday night, if you have Peacock, enjoy watching that or finding somewhere to watch the Packers and the Eagles. Saturday, we get to do college football all over again, just like we did this week. And then Sunday, the rest of the chaos ensues. So it's going to be a fun weekend, but it's that time of the year.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, y'all. We'll see you next week. Make sure you like the video, comment. Please leave your comments about what you want us to break down, maybe about this game, maybe, even some suggestions about what to come back with next week. But yeah, like the video, subscribe to the page. Appreciate y'all listening. Follow us on Twitter at Ron_Kopp, at CJ Scoobs on Twitter. We will catch you next time. We're out.